Welcome to the Carter Center's Forum on Human Rights. My name is Karen Ryan. I am Senior Advisor for Human Rights here at the Carter Center. First order of business is if you would like to join the chat, join the conversation tonight, please go to our website, Forum on Human Rights, and log in for tonight's event. All you have to do is fill out the fields and you will be signed up and you'll be able to participate in the chat that's happening on our own dedicated website. So thanks for being with us. Today's event is part of a series on the role of the arts in advancing social justice. Art touches the heart and can be very effective in advancing the cause of justice. It is that idea that we will be exploring tonight and in future events. Participating in today's conversation, we have Josh Griffin, who is a graduate assistant with the Carter Center's Human Rights Program, and we've been really happy to have Josh with us this last year. Josh holds a master's degree in development practice from Emory University. He's a published poet and has served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Morocco. Additionally, we will share clips from an interview that Josh conducted with Seattle-based activist TK. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we are just a little unhappy or disappointed that we don't have TK live with us today, but it doesn't matter because we had an excellent interview with her, and Josh did an interview that we'll be revisiting now and bringing into our conversation. We will be exploring the power of photographs to help really spur on activism in tonight's conversation. The photographs will be introduced by Josh, and he'll bring us through a really, really interesting conversation about how we can use the power of the photograph to mobilize us. Over to you, Josh. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for introducing me, Karen. And also thank you for introducing TK. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to be with us. But as Karen alluded to, I was able to sit down with her a little bit ago and do a great informational interview. And I do apologize about that being there. Won't happen again. So, mourn the dead and fight like hell for the living. TK is a Seattle-based community activist who co-established the evening marches with the help of 4 colleagues. These marches galvanized all walks of life and brought together a diverse group of people united in advocating for Black lives. They fought like hell for the living each and every day. Now we're going to go ahead and transition into hearing the interview with TK, and along the way, we'll look at different pictures to see how they correlate to what TK is describing.
So with me, music is a big key to me. Mm-hmm. And so like, yeah, you got music that's out there and that's raunchy and that's, you know, that type of music. But then you got music that is that type of music, but it's actually real knowledge that you should actually listen to. Forget what it sounds like, listen to what's being said. You know what I'm saying? And like Tupac and Nipsey were like philosophical dudes. They were more than just rappers, you feel me? They were more than just platinum selling artists, dudes who got up on stage to perform for people. They were more than just that. Nipsey was gentrifying his own neighborhood before somebody else could do it. He was trying to buy back his neighbor. He was trying to buy up his neighborhood before somebody else could do it. You know what I'm saying? Pac exposed us all to the real deal dirty draws of America. Like, whether back then, like, come on now, back then in this era, who really was thinking like that? Besides those type of people, like, you feel me? Nobody was really thinking like that after the Panthers and all those guys. You didn't hear rappers really talking about that unless it was the early 80s and, you know, that era where it did happen like that for a little bit, NWA and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But they rapped about it, they didn't really talk about it. Pac rapped and talked. But if you think about it, if you look at the way he talked, he was more of an activist than a rapper. And so he just chose to do his activism through music. He used what he learned, what he knew how to do, his art form, to open up America's eyes to the terrors of the Black ghetto community. You know what I'm saying? Nipsey used his art to open people up into how to become self-made millionaires. He started out of his trunk. Bro, he sold one of his mixtapes for $1,000. Everybody told me he was crazy for doing it. And the crazy thing is, Jay-Z bought 100 of them for $1,000 a piece. That's crazy. He used his art to say, you know what, I'm worth more than what these people gonna give me for myself. So bet on me. My activism is just, I can't be nobody else. I don't know how to be nobody else. Only thing I can be is me. And so that in itself is an art. Because a lot of people don't know how to be them. A lot of people try to appease the masses and be likable. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you're my biggest fan or my worst enemy. I don't care. Because when I go to that graveyard, when it's my time to go, I'm going to go as me. And that is the best art form I can ever give anybody, is the confidence to be themselves. Because that's an art. You have to be yourself. Or you're going to keep putting on these facades and these masks and being other people when it's really cheaper to be yourself. It's free to be you. It costs to try to be somebody else. It costs too much. So I'm taking the cheap. I'm thinking money-wise, economic-wise, I'm going to take the cheaper route and just be my damn self. Excuse my language, but I'm going to just be myself versus paying a substantial, devastating price to be something I'm not. And that's why those two guys, along with the Huey Newtons and the Stokely Carmichaels and the Fred Hamptons and the Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings, the Madam C.J. Walkers, the Harriet Tubmans, the Sojourner Truth, all those people. You feel me? All those, that blood that runs through me, that history that runs through me. Feel me? That's why those people made the impacts they did, because all they did was be them. That's the one thing I learned from all those people, was how to be it's easy to be yourself whether you're liked or not, but people have to respect you because you are you, and they got to accept that. Whether they like it or not, they have to accept that you were you and nobody else. And that is an art in itself. So that's why I'm used to, like, music is like my out, and it's like, okay, I can relate through this, and it's just like, because it teaches me to be me, regardless of what you think I'm listening to. You can think I'm listening to mumbo jumbo garbage, whatever, but a lot of that stuff resonates with situations I've been through in my life through a different perspective. So in a way, it's teaching me how to be something better, or how to deal with this situation in a different way. Because there's always negatives and positives to everything.
Very impactful. Very impactful. You know, my first takeaway right there is just the importance of being yourself, and to have those role models that can allow you to understand just the importance of embracing who you are. I think both Tupac and Nipsey Hussle very much, embraced who they are and what they're able to achieve. And Tupac, sorry, TK there was talking about gentrification, and we actually have a picture that kind of speaks to that. And as you're looking at this picture, Karen, and to our audience too, I'd like you to sit and think about what do you see? Not just necessarily just the back of their foreheads, but what do you see? Sorry, the back of their heads. What are you looking at? What do you think might be going through their minds? Are you aware of the building that's constructed on the left-hand side? Do you notice the completed one on the right? Do you understand the context in which they're marching? What do you see, Karen, when you look at this picture?
So yeah, and what TK was talking about earlier, you had asked her what were the artists that influenced her as part of this idea of how arts can impact social justice. And she was talking about Nipsey Hussle in particular and Tupac. And, you know, maybe not a lot of people in our audience know Nipsey Hussle, what he was about in LA. In fact, I was just in his neighborhood a couple of weeks ago. I was in California. And what he was about was what you're saying is bringing development into his own neighborhood, but on his terms, on the terms of the community. And what I see in this picture related to that is what you just said. You know, there's these new buildings going up, and sometimes, you know, people think, good, new building, improve the neighborhood, blah blah blah, without understanding the impact on the community that lives there already. And so I cheated a little bit because I kind of knew what this photo was about. But when I first looked at it, I didn't really see those. I was just like, oh, there's some construction going on over there. I don't know what that is. But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so actually, this is an image from a protest that TK had led last summer. And this is a picture taken within a historically African-American community here in Seattle. But due to gentrification, that community is being priced and pushed out intentionally, to be completely honest, in my opinion. And so it's just, there's importance to like, look at not just look at a picture, but to ask too the questions like what's going on here. And if you don't know who, try to like reach out to individuals that might know, so that you can, you know, be drawn in and have a better understanding and insight into that. And once again too, would love to hear from our audience. If you have any comments, feel free to drop them in the link along the way throughout this broadcast this evening. And so in this next clip, we're going to look at, you know, TK describes, you know, why she became an activist, what inspired her. She alluded to it somewhat in this first clip, but in this next one, she really draws that out in greater depth.
I'm standing for my brothers, for all my brothers, my older brothers, my younger brothers, see me, my nephew, my niece, like my family members. Because at the end of the day, when George Floyd died and that video went viral everywhere across every country in this world, everybody in the world seen this tragedy happen. The whole entire world, not just the US, the whole world seeing this happen. And for some people to still make that okay in their head, well, hell, if this happens to my brother, if this hit at my house, y'all gonna make this okay? Well, I need to figure this out, because at the end of the day, what can I do to make sure that y'all don't, there is no excuse for nothing that happens. Because see, my brothers are gonna live prosperous lives and die from natural causes when they old, grade 90 and 100 or something like that. And you know what I'm saying? If I got something to do with it. And those guys, they stood up for their people. I don't want none of this for me. I want it for my people. It's not about, forget me. I don't want none of this stuff we went out here asking for, or we demanded from these people. None of it. I don't want it for myself. I'm sure they didn't want it for my other, you know, the other 4 people that we did it all together. I'm sure they didn't want it for themselves either. We want this for our people. And when we say our people, that's not just our family that's close to us. It's our people as a whole. Because by helping my family, I'm helping my people. Because now we're seeing that this structure and this thing can be done within our families and within our community. So now it's gonna ripple effect all around us. That's how I help my people, is by helping my family, so my family can be an example to help my people, and my people understand that we can all rise up and do this together. And that's the one thing I learned from those guys, is no matter what, hell and high water, they stood up. Even when they got beat down and shot and heck, even killed, even after they were killed, they still stood up, because their legacy is still here standing up. So why would I not take that and be like, those are the greatest, all my role models either got a criminal record or got a mugshot, period.
the word community just kind of popped into my mind throughout, that little clip there is just, my people. And I think, TK is really alluding to just the community and surrounding yourself around this community and the right type of people in order to come together and to fight for causes that you believe in. Is there anything that resonated with you, Karen, as you listened to that clip?
Yeah, I think sacrifice. I mean,
Mm.
sacrifices that people make when they stand up. It's no kidding. As she was saying, even the ones that have been killed, their legacy is still here. We can look at our history and look at the martyrs in our own history to social justice, to racial justice, and we know that their legacy is with us. So, I mean, I think it's a call. I just also love that. It's like sometimes we don't just. It's not selfish. It's not that we're saying, "Give me this, give me that." It's we want better for us. We all deserve better. We all deserve equal dignity, equal.
Exactly.
And that's what I was feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes you got to kind of just demand that. And I remember when I was living in Atlanta as a graduate student, I happened to stumble upon a protest at the intersection of Centennial and Marietta. And this is actually an image from that I took. And I can't just take in the immense, the passion and the presence and the power of the people, right? And just all the signs, I am a man, no justice, no peace, and just the unity. And then the immense sacrifice. This was during COVID that we all were willing to take to put our health on the line to be there for that moment. I was speaking with a colleague earlier, and he had mentioned, imagine if you take away all the cell phones and you take this photo and it's black and white. We're back to the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this issue of, racism within America is still present and prevalent. And it's important for us to come together and be unified so that we don't have to continue to take to the streets and to demand these changes and things of that nature. So I really just would hope for our audience, you just sit and just take this in and just what do you hear, honestly? Because being there, I heard them say, this is war, not in the context of actual physical violence, but like an intellectual war of the mind. How are we going to move forward? What are we going to do on an individual basis to create lasting change? And I think that's the challenge moving forward. What do you see, Karen, when you take
I'm looking at faces, whenever we do this, Josh, I just find myself really looking at everyone's faces, and the speaker there, who's very passionate right in the middle. I can just imagine just hearing the power from him. And, one sign that I really fixed on here, uplift downtrodden humanity. That's what it's about, right?
Absolutely.
All of us. No justice, no peace, do I really have to say I am a man? Do I have to say it again?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. There's an old photograph of a bunch of people in the 50s walking with that sign, I am a man. And here we are again.
Yep.
Yeah. It's deep.
It is.
In our own city.
So yeah, so many parallels there. So let's go ahead and roll the next clip and see what TK has to offer us.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about pictures. They're just visual context to the words that go along with it. You know what I'm saying? And so, and you know what I'm saying? A picture tells 1,000 words. Feel me? Honestly, what I really want people to feel like when they see those pictures, I want them to feel inspired. I want them to feel like this isn't an impossible thing to do. Like, I want them to feel like, you know what? Just because I'm not rich or just because I live here doesn't mean I can't stand up for the people around me. I want people to take those pictures, look at them and be like, if I'm not this brave, then I don't know who is. I want to be this brave. I want kids to look at those pictures and be like, these are our heroes because these guys stood up when nobody else did. These guys took that stand when nobody else did. When nobody else cared, they did. Every day, they care. I want those pictures to inspire people to do something more than what they're already doing, to keep fighting and keep pressing. Yeah, it's cool to remember it for history and to say we did it. Yeah, that's cool, whatever, whoop-de-doo. But if we just did it to say we did it and not actually, yeah, now don't get me wrong, the state of Washington leads every other state for change. We have the most laws against police accountability and every other thing in place right now. We are the only state with that many in place. It's like 12 or 13. We're the only state with that many police accountability laws since this whole thing has been started. We're the only state. And so don't get me wrong, it has produced some change, but it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough because we're still getting killed out here in the street like rabid dogs. It's not enough because our children are still being harassed like criminals at the age of 5, 6, 7, and 10. It's not enough. It's not enough. Our youth being killed at 14, 15. Ma'Khia Bryant killed the same dang day Derek Chauvin was convicted, right after the verdict was read. It's not enough. So when you see those pictures, when people see those pictures, I want them to look and think, how do I go further? What can I do now? Because if you're not going to think that, then it's pointless to even look at those pictures.
How do I go further? You know, what am I going to do now?
That was deep.
Right? Just so profound. I remember growing up, you know, and in classes in high school, looking at pictures from Bloody Sunday, and the march across the bridge in Selma, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and just, you know, even seeing the video clips of the police who are to protect and to serve people, putting the dogs onto people, the hoses, beating individuals, almost killing, you know, our beloved John Lewis. And so I just can't think about, like, how do you go further? What do you do now? And I think back to the Sunday after George Floyd was murdered. I found myself at the intersection of Centennial and Marietta, marching with a group of people through the West End, going past Georgia Tech and Indian Ap at Atlantic Station, and on the side of the 17th Street Bridge, getting ready to walk across towards Midtown. And before we made that walk across that bridge, I remember the leader of the protest telling us to lock arms and no matter what, do not stop. Not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing if we were going to be beat or brutalized, not knowing if there'd be hoses or dogs. We walked across that bridge and we laid down in front of the police and we, you know, yelled, say their names, I can't breathe. And so just what TK says is so inspiring because I've lived that. How do you go further? You do it. You do it because you have to, because it is your duty bound. And I am so grateful for the TKs of the world, for the Martin Luther King Jr.'s of the world, for John Lewis, because they came first so that I didn't have to struggle as much. So who knows what this image will lead to? I don't know any of these people, but together we were united. And together we may have made it so others don't have to suffer, just like those who attended the march during Bloody Sunday in 1956, I believe, in Selma, Alabama.
Yeah. And I think it was really moving, your story, Josh, about that, just thinking about that Bloody Sunday and imagine being in your place, really not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing about sacrifice, as we talked about at the beginning. There's a sacrifice involved. But did you notice what TK said in your interview with her, that in Seattle, in Washington State, they've seen all these laws passing? Why? Because of marches like that.
Exactly.
Because people stood up. So it's not, you know, I think sometimes people think, well, what's the point of marching? Well, it's to change. It's to pass. It's to get the laws changed. It's to say, how are we going to hold police accountable? How are we going to get housing rights? How are we going to make sure our communities are protected against evictions? Things like that. That's what I hear people saying in these marches.
No, definitely. I agree with you absolutely there. They serve a purpose, and they definitely transform legislation here within the state of Washington. And it's good. It's a good day, that's for sure. And it's got to continue to hold people accountable. I think also kind of is a word that comes up too when I hear TK speak. So as we transition into this last clip with TK, I think about a quote. It's not what I can do. It's not what you can do for me, but what can I do for you? TK describes how she stopped talking and started walking, how she embraced what she can do to help her community.
It's just like I don't really get into religion and stuff like that, but it's just like if people do in the Bible, Jesus, he hung around the thieves, the murderers, the prostitutes, the bad people, right? He didn't hang around with the goody two shoes people who were always doing right. Right? He didn't hang around those people because if you're right, then you don't need my help. But if you're down here struggling, trying to find a way, then this is where I need to be. It's the same concept with life. Why do you need to help the people that already have the help? It's time for those people to come down here and help these people. And those guys realize that. In some form or another, they realized that. And so it was like, it's time to get off your butt, stop talking, and start walking.
Yep.
Stop talking and start walking.
Start walking.
That's powerful,
right?
That's powerful. And I mean, for believers, I think that's such a strong message. Mm-hmm. I mean, right? I mean, is it ever not true that the prophet was with the people was with the downtrodden always?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Wasn't with the people in power. They already had it. He's trying. The higher powers out here trying to help those that are struggling. And so I think when I hear that is, when are people who are currently in power, historically been in power, going to relinquish their power and actually help the people who've been oppressed?
And what I think the marches talk about, the photos that you brought to us, Josh, today, is about people standing up and saying, "Here we are."
Exactly. We actually have a image of people together at the CNN building down in Atlanta. And right there, here we are, united for Black lives, for people standing upon the CNN towers in unity. You see melanin of all shades together, united. Just that's a day I'll never forget. A lot of things transpired, but that moment in time will forever stick with me. I felt value in that moment. People were there for people who look like myself, for those that have been oppressed. Maybe you can call all of them angels that came together to fight for Black lives and lives of those who've been oppressed in this country, and which in turn led to all these protests that we've spoken about. Mm-hmm. I see that we have a question real fast. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's from Ara.
Before you do that, thanks for that. That was well said, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
I liked what you said about maybe they're angels. That was really nice. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but go ahead and read your question.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, looking back at it, I think that they had to have been of a higher power because it wasn't about the individual. It was about a cause greater than themselves. And I think that's what sacrifice is. So
hey, we started with sacrifice, didn't we?
We did. It's being threaded throughout this conversation. I should say. All right. So, question from our audience. I find that the images like these often transcend a specific culture. But how do you think these images translate internationally? Are they just as powerful when people don't have the same context or history?
I think one thing, did you notice that, with the George Floyd protest, that went global, as
Oh
TK
yeah,
said, right?
yeah.
We went global. I mean, there were protests all over the world. And interestingly, a couple weeks ago, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights made a report
Mm-hmm.
and said George Floyd's name at the very beginning, and said the killing of George Floyd was a catalyst for us globally to look at racism against people of African descent.
Absolutely, the dysphoria.
It's like some kind of catalyst that is really forcing everyone to look within our own, everybody's own society, to say, hey, this is still here. Anti-Black racism, white supremacy is still a fact.
Yeah,
Colonialism has had its consequences, and slavery, and here we are, and we have to deal with it.
absolutely.
So I think that when I see these images, I think of it as a global struggle. You don't have to look far, all over. I bet you just do a Google search right now, and you could find protests from almost any country during that period last summer.
Yeah, I remember seeing protests in London, Bristol. I remember when they took down a statue of a colonizer. Bristol also, he was either at Cambridge or Oxford. They took down a sculpture of the individual who colonized South Africa. So it's definitely international. And so I guess the world's been really good at oppressing people of African descent, unfortunately. And so it's just like, now is the time. I think is what it comes down to, is that this is just having read Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime, and he was born in apartheid South Africa, and I'm also biracial. And you see just so many parallels with apartheid and the civil rights here in the States. You see what Belgium did to the Congo, and it's how it's still affecting people. It's just like, now is the time for us to speak up and hold space like we're currently doing, to address these issues and to look for solutions and not to run from them. No,
That's right.
so that's what resonates with me. Just want to give our audience some time to, maybe y'all have any questions, feel free to pop them in real fast. Want to be mindful of y'all's time too. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you, Karen, for taking the time to be here with us. I think it was a really good conversation, talking about the importance of photography and how that can be used within social justice movements. Do you have anything you'd like to add as we kind of wrap everything up, Karen?
Well, I want to invite that. First of all, thank you, Josh. This is your final. No, you have one more event with us that you're going to advertise right now, right? Josh has done an amazing job with the Carter Center this last year, helping us with this series and other projects on racial justice. So before I toss it over to Josh to conclude, I want to give a special thanks to Ora Lynn Grooms, who was our intern this year and who helped with this series. Did a fantastic job. And Ora, we're going to miss you, and good luck in all your endeavors. Over to you, Josh, to bring us home.
Thank you, Ora, too. It's been great working with you and getting to know you this year. So as Karen alluded to, this was second to last time with y'all, but I look forward to being able to hold space with you all again. On the week of August 9th, we're going to have a conversation about the March on Washington. I don't know if you know this, but at the end of August, there'll be another March on Washington focusing on voter rights. Last summer, I had the opportunity to attend the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington. I was there with tens of thousands of people. And during the week of August 9th, we are going to have a conversation that looks exclusively and specifically at that march, what it was like to be there, why we were there, what we learned from it, and how that moment has inspired us to continue to go forward in our fight for social justice. So we thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing you. And we'll definitely get that promotional information out there for you in the coming weeks. Have a great rest of your evening, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.